this Dhamma talk will be in English. When we in Plum Village, those who are of Asian origin, when we say Merry Christmas or Raya Noel, we have to practice a little bit in order to say so. Because we don't say it very often, especially those of us who have come to Europe just 1 or 2 years ago, and really practicing saying Joyeux Noël or Merry Christmas is really a practice, because Christianity is part of the Western culture. And if you are not used to Christianity, if you are not used to celebrating Christmas, you have to say Merry Christmas, Joyeux Noël, because your friends here have been in the tradition of Christianity for a long time. Maybe some of you are not do not feel very joyous when you are addressed with that Merry Christmas or Joyeux Noël. But you have to admit that Christianity is a part of your culture, and it continues to be an important part of your culture. And you cannot say that Christianity does not exist. We have to acknowledge its presence and to make peace with it, even if you don't like it. In fact, those of us who come from Asia, we have the intention to learn from the Western culture, also from Christianity. It makes a part of that culture. The other day, there was a report that the French people is becoming more or less and less Catholic. 70% of the French people profess to be Catholics, but most of them don't practice. They do not practice Christianity. Many don't believe in God. Many do not go to church, but they still claim to be of Christianity. They say that they are Christian. They don't practice, but they want to say that they are Christians. This is something very important too, because every one of us wants to belong to something, to some culture, to some spiritual value. And that is why there's so many people who do not practice Christianity still claim to be Christians. This is very important, because we need that. We need something to hold to believe in. Many people who do not believe in God, in a church, who do not practice, but who organize Christmas as a festival, and they talk to children about Le Père Noël, Santa Claus, and so on. And the children of our time have grown to be very suspicious. Many of them don't believe in Papa Noel. The other day I saw a child saying that, well, It's okay not to have a Christmas tree, but we should have a cadeau, gift, presents. So looking at adults and looking at children, the way they celebrate Christmas, you can learn a lot from it. Why in Plum Village we celebrate Christmas? Because it is a practice. The practice of acknowledging that Christianity is a part of the Western culture. And Christmas also is a practice. The theme of your meditation, the subject of your meditation, can be Santa Claus. Why not? Because you can meditate on Santa Claus and get enlightened. This is the principle of the practice. Because Santa Claus is not less real than the Christmas tree, or the table, or the mountain. It's our concept of Santa Claus is very important. It has been born from many other elements. It is exactly like our concept of Plum Village. So both are concepts. And Santa Claus is as real as Plum Village. If Plum Village is made of non-Plum Village elements, and Santa Claus also has been made of non-Santa Claus elements that are there. So the value of Plum Village depends on the values of non-Plum Village elements. The value of Santa Claus depends on the values of non-Santa Claus elements. And that is why Santa Claus is a real subject of your meditation. If you can see into the true nature of Santa Claus, you can see the true nature of the cosmos. Meditating on the Buddha is also practiced with the same principle, meditating on God, on Christianity also. To meditate is to look deeply in order to find out the true nature of what you meditate upon. A civilization, a culture, has always its essence, and Christianity has been very important in the West. The whole Western civilization has been founded on Christianity. And during 2000 years, Christianity has provided the West with spiritual food, guidance, wisdom, love that have nourished the West for a long time. Of course, a number of mistakes have been made. These kind of mistakes may have alienated a number of us from Christianity and from the Western society. But it is not because of the mistakes done that we deny all the values that can be found in the tradition of the Western culture. Maybe some of us don't want to say Merry Christmas because Christmas belongs to this culture that we don't like, we want to get away from. But to be able to say Merry Christmas with understanding, with compassion, it is a deep practice. There are so many young people in this society who deny their own tradition, their own culture. They don't have a sense of belonging to anything. They don't feel that they belong to the past. They don't feel that they belong to their society, their family, their culture, their religion. They feel completely lost. They feel like a tree without roots. The other day, a young person asked me, what is the purpose of being there in life? I don't know what my purpose of being there. The question reveals to us some of the truth. The person does not find any link to society, to culture. And the person feels that there's no meaning of being around. And deeply in the person there is a feeling of loneliness. We feel alone because we are not connected. We don't feel connected with anything at all. We don't feel connected with our society, with our tradition, with our religion. We don't feel connected with our family, with our father, our mother, because we have suffered. Our society has made us suffer. Our tradition has made us suffer. Our mother, our father have made us suffer. Our school has made us suffer. We suffer so much and we want to deny. We don't want to run away from all these things. And because we don't feel the connection between us and society and family and tradition, that is why we become more and more isolated. And some of the roots that are left for us now have been taken away. And we feel completely lost, alone. Many young people in the West feel like that in these days. And I have met with people who come from Asia when they were very young, when they have not got anything deep and stable from their own Asian culture, and live in the West among young people in the West, they begin to feel very much the same. They feel they are not connected to anything. In time and in space. In time, they don't feel connected with their ancestors, their history, their parents, grandparents. And they cannot see that they are the source from which generations of children and grandchildren will come out. So they don't feel the responsibility of being the source of the future. They don't know that they are so informed. If they are connected with time, they will be connected with ancestors and the future generations. They would take good care of themselves, not to destroy themselves. And since they don't feel that connection, they let go. They don't mind. They don't care. They don't take care even of their own body. And being alone, feeling lost, they want to forget that kind of reality of isolation, of loneliness. So they seek forgetfulness. They use alcohol. They use drugs. They use sex. They use many things in order to forget. And they can forget for some time, and then they go back to the true situation, a situation that has become more and more difficult every time they seek forgetfulness, and they practice forgetfulness. And if they have children, their children will be completely lost, because they cannot play the role of parents. They are lost themselves. How could they point to a way that can lead the children out of the situation of being lost at all? For young people who are in that kind of situation, who do not believe in anything, who don't feel any connection, celebrating Christmas is something funny. There's so many things that they want to get rid of. Of course, mistakes have been made by many generations, including parents, friends, teachers, husbands, wives. And because we suffer so much, we have a tendency to deny everything, and therefore we are not able to see the positive elements within one tradition, one culture. Christianity is a spiritual tradition first. And as a spiritual tradition, it engenders wisdom and love. The way we contemplate things, the way we contemplate life and the cosmos will bring about insight. How do you see the cosmos? How do you see life? Several generations of Christians have practiced looking, contemplating, and offering the Western people the fruit of their contemplation. And wisdom, insight is the fruit of contemplation, and not only wisdom but love with it, because we know that wherever there is some insight, is some understanding, there must be love and acceptance. So wisdom and love should be there in any tradition, including Christianity. And many young people are not capable of seeing that, because these values may have been buried deeply under many layers of suffering, of mistakes. Maybe celebrating Christmas is an opportunity for us to stop crying, to stop being too busy, in order to try to find out what is underneath that tradition of 2000 years, a tradition that many people now want to run away from. There was a generation who could no longer believe in God, and who tried to believe in something else, like science. Science has promised a lot, and science has played the role of God for many years, almost a century. But very soon science proved to be not to be something that can satisfy us. Science also proved that it is unable to bring us what we expect from it. Science also has brought about a lot of suffering. And after science, we try to believe in something else. We try to believe in socialism. Socialism can bring about equality, democracy, happiness. But now the god of socialism also has been destroyed, and that is why it's a very dangerous, it is a very critical situation. We don't have anything to believe in anymore. We don't believe in religion, in the tradition, in our family system. We don't believe in science, in democracy, in socialism. What is the purpose of my being alive? This is a very painful question. To the person who asked that question, what shall we do? What shall we say? Shall we say that there is no purpose at all? The idea of a purpose is something you invent in order to be tortured by it. I think we can spend 1 hour 2 hours, 3 hours in order to talk about the purpose of being alive. But that won't help at all, because the root is not the person does not know the answer. The root of the question is the fact that the person does not feel connected to anything whatsoever in this life. So no matter what you say, it won't help. The person who asks the question suffers, and very often he doesn't realize that the other people suffer also. He tends to believe that he is the only one who suffers, and the other people, they only make him or her suffer, which is not true. Someone believes that his mother and his father have made him suffer a lot, and he feels that kind of resentment within his heart. And because of his suffering, he is not able to see that his father has suffered, still suffering, and his mother also, and other people in his society and his traditions. And to blame is a kind of practice in order to feel less, to suffer less. To blame is a way of practicing in order to suffer a little bit less, but it is not effective. That practice is not effective. In the Buddhist tradition, we try to remember, we try to open up in order to see that the other people, they do suffer like us. And so we don't practice blaming, we practice in such a way that can bring about relief and liberation for everyone. For everyone. The baby Jesus, when he was born, he already began to suffer, and very soon after his birth, he became a refugee. He had to run away to another country. And when he grew up, he saw many things in his society. A lot of suffering. And he was seeking to see the true connection between him and the cosmos. He looked at the world. He looked at the cosmos. He looked at his family. He looked at his society. He did the work of contemplation in order to find out the kind of link between him and all of these. And when he became a teacher, he shared the fruit of his looking to the people who listened to him, and to his 12 disciples. And that was the beginning of Christianity. The looking of Jesus. And out of that looking, there was insight, there was compassion, and that was the beginning of Christianity. Without a deep spiritual dimension, a person cannot have insight and share the insight with other people. And the source of the Spirit is within ourselves. But we have to touch it in order to be in communication. And the way Jesus touched that source of spirituality is meditation, is the practice of mindfulness. And that began with his being baptized by John. John baptized Jesus with water, and during that time, Jesus saw the Holy Spirit coming down like a dove and stay on his children. The Holy Spirit does it come from the sky, from the clouds, or does it come from your own heart? Maybe it's the same. What is important is that the Spirit is felt, is touched, and that is something that was produced during the ritual of baptism carried out by John the Baptist. When you have been initiated, when you have been able to touch the Spirit within you, the Holy Spirit that is described in form of a dove is beautiful, is poetic. You have to do your best in order to nourish it, to keep it alive. In a spiritual tradition, when the Spirit is born in you by your contact with a friend or a teacher or a practice, you have to try to nourish that, to keep it alive by your practice. And Jesus, in order to keep it alive and develop it, went to the mountain and stayed there for 40 days in order to do so, to practice, to keep it alive. It was not described very in details what Jesus did exactly during these 40 days, but he was alone. He was alone. He was practicing alone in order to keep the Spirit alive and to develop it. And we in Plum Village, we know what it is like. Well, we practice, but we want to be alone at the same time. And the purpose of being with a friend or being alone is only to keep the Spirit alive and to develop it into something important, to touch it deeply, because touching the Spirit will cause yourself to be transformed. And Christianity was born from that kind of experience. The way Jesus saw the world, the way he expressed his compassion, his karuna, and that was Christianity. But what has been handed down by Jesus should be nourished, taken care of, so that the spirit can stay alive and develop, so that love and insight can be renewed all the time. Because the wisdom and love are something alive, like a tree. The time the tree stops to grow, it will die. So that in the history of Christianity, there have been many generations that try their best in order to keep alive that wisdom, that love. And of course, from time to time, people forgot how to do it. They made mistakes. They make use of the tradition for their own purpose, and therefore they many times in history they have made the spirit dead, not available to the people of that time. Our time is such a time when many people who are in the tradition of Christianity cannot touch the spirit. We feel that it is dead. In order to keep the spirit alive, to keep Christianity alive, there should be people who continue the work of looking, contemplating the world, and express insight and compassion in such a way that the people of that time can feel and can touch. And if the people feel that they are alienated from Christianity, because in our time there are not many people who are able to do so, to continue the work of Jesus, the founding fathers, in order to look, to reveal, and to practice. In our time, we speak of paradigm, you pronounce paradigm shift. According to modern theologians, paradigm is a system of belief, is a way, is a way you look, you see, you interpret, you believe. The sky is like that, the mountain is like that, the sky is what it is, the mountain is what it is, the cosmos is what it is, man is what she is, he is. But we have our way of looking and of interpreting, of expressing. And the totality of our way of looking and seeing and interpreting is paradigm. There were times when we look upon a piece of dust and don't see more than a piece of dust. But now scientists of our time, when they look at a piece of dust, they see it very differently. So the work of looking of contemplating always bring us the capacity to renew our way of seeing, our way of love. Seeing is insight, and loving is compassion. And because there are not enough effort in order to renew the way of looking, the way of generating insight and compassion. That is why the tradition does not seem to be alive anymore. And the theologians of our time are advocating for paradigm shift. We have to abandon the old way of looking. We have to let it go, because this way of looking, of seeing is no longer fit to the modern age. The young people, the people of our age, cannot accept that way of looking anymore. So tradition has become an obstacle. Instead of being a ferry that can carry us across the river, become an obstruction. When a young Vietnamese lady or young man come to practice in a temple, in a practice center in Vietnam, she or he does so. It does not because of the fact that she get lost in society, or her family is broken. In most of the case, it's not like that. Look at the young nuns in Plum Village. If you talk to them, you find out that it's not because that they deny the society, deny the family and the tradition, that they want to become a nun. When they come to the temple to practice, they still have their family. And if you say, now you have a chance to go back and visit your family for a week, they will be very happy. And in fact, because of that, the practice center is also organized as a family, another family. And in our tradition, the practice center is always organized as a family. Not because we want to do like that, but because the structure of the society is like that, and the family structure is like that. And compare with the family structure in the West, the family structure in China, in Vietnam is still much more solid. So when you come from a family that is still whole, that is still happy, it's very easy for you to integrate into the family of practice, of the practice center. You don't have much problem. But if you have a broken family, if you don't believe in your society, in your tradition, and then when you come to a practice center, your difficulties will be not only double, but maybe 100 times bigger. But you have a new chance. If the practice center is organized as a family, this is the first chance in your life in order to get rooted. And if you don't have a chance, you go to a practice center that is very well organized, but it does not it does not have the feel of a family, and then you don't have any chance, because it is only a combination of grouping of many islands, and each person continue to be an island, and we have a community of islands. We can never make it into a continent. Make it into a continent. I'm not talking about the Buddhist community of practice alone. I'm talking in general terms. Those who are thinking hard of how to reorganize the Western society, I think they would be doing the same kind of thinking and figuring out how for a person to get rooted again in his own society, his own tradition. Otherwise, she cannot be happy at all. And so many people who are in that situation, who don't feel any connection with family, tradition, and society. When you practice cutting bouturage, when you try to make a plant out of a cutting, you should prepare good soil, damp, and you put the cutting in it, and you take care of it by watering the soil from time to time. You have to do it well enough in order for the cutting to have a chance to get rooted in the soil before you can transplant. For a person who is uprooted from his society and culture, coming to a practice center, it is like a cutting that is entrusted to the soil. So the soil should be good. I have seen in the market a kind of powder. They call it vegetable hormone vegetal. Before you dip the cutting into the moist soil, you can dip it into the hormone vegetal, because that kind of hormone help the roots to come out. In fact, when we transplanted the bamboo in front of this meditation hall, we did diluted the hormone vegetal and dip the roots of the bamboos in first before we put it into the soil. Maybe we have to invent a kind of hormone for the people to facilitate the rooting of the people into their own society. Scientists, what kind of scientists should be working on that? Light soil, a little bit of sand, very light kind of soil, not too wet, not too dry. is important for a cutting to take roots. And then other condition of heat and of time. If you put a cutting into the soil, and if 3 or 4 days ago you take it out and look, and then you never get the cutting rooted. So you need to be in a kind of environment that is stable, and you should be there. You should have a chance to be there long enough before you expect some roots can take place. It depends very much on the quality of the soil. If the family, the community of practice has joy in it, has peace and joy and stability. If the community of practice has a flavor of a family where people can look upon each other as a brother or a sister, and then the person will have a chance, a big chance. But if the community of practice is just an agglomeration of islands, and then there is no effect. No matter how long you stay there, you won't get the roots coming out. And who is responsible for that? For that quality of the soil, the quality of the practice community. Everyone in the family, in the community. So it has been many years. I have visited practice centers in the West, and it has been many years that I have voiced my concern. If the practice center does not organize like a family, if we think of the practice as what we do inside of our 5 elements only, and then we never get that kind of transformation we expect, we need. Man is a social being, and the anger, the frustration, the hope, the joy have roots in society. And practice is to look deeply into the nature of things in order to arrive at transformation. And we know the roots of things are a little bit everywhere. If you isolate yourself, if you go to the mountain and stay alone on the mountain, in a mountain, you won't have a chance to meet with another human being, and your anger might not be able to be seen by yourself. It has no chance to manifest. Your bitterness also, these kind of things. And therefore, staying with other people to practice, having the kind of human relationship with other people is a chance to practice. So if people continue to say that enlightenment and transformation is something you do in the circle of your 5 elements, it is not a good idea concerning the practice. Of course, all of us know that when we are able to make one person smile and get relief, we feel a release taking place within ourselves. Sometimes you do it here, but there, the outcome is in there. Sometimes you help with the kidney, but your heart is relieved. Sometimes you help with the digestive system, and then the situation of your lungs will be improved. So if we don't abandon the idea that to practice is just looking back at our 5 elements and work in the compound of these 5 elements, we never arrive at transformation. And therefore, the work of practice includes the work of building the community of practice into a family where joy can exist, and communication is what we have to learn to practice. Even if you don't like to say Merry Christmas, try to learn and say Merry Christmas. It has been very helpful to me to practice this kind of things. Even if you don't like to be with another person in a Dharma talk, try to be with him or her in a Dharma talk or Dharma discussion. Because it is our practice. It is by trying to touch the other person that we can touch ourselves. It's my roots in my family, my society, my tradition. So to practice is to try to communicate. You cannot communicate to yourself, with yourself, unless you can communicate with another human being. There is a person who told me that the first time in his life he got to communicate with 1 or 2 persons in Bangladesh. I said, that's not bad. You can communicate with 1 or 2 persons in Bangladesh. That's a great achievement, because in the past that person had not been able to communicate with anyone at all. So that was a very good beginning. 2 tiny roots has been seen from the cutting. In fact, in the spirit of Buddhism, a person is a sister to another person, a brother to another person. And that is our practice. When we practice like that, we will be able to touch ourselves. We should have enough patience. Of course, the cutting is very eager to see the roots come out. But we cannot take the cutting out every day not to look, because they prevent the root from coming out. Sometimes we are so used to running around, and therefore we don't allow ourselves to be in one place. Sitting is like that. sitting is to be grounded, to be rooted. So to be in one place long enough to accept the environment, to accept the community, the Sangha as it is a very fundamental condition for someone to get rooted. And the moment when you can take one person as your brother or your sister, well, the process of healing begins. I'm not talking about Buddhist practice alone. I'm talking in general terms, because there's so many people, especially young people, who are in a situation of not having any root at all. They suffer so much, and by suffering, they make other people suffering also. They want to forget their suffering, and that is why they seek many means in order to forget, and by doing so, they empoison themselves, they kill themselves, and they make other people suffer with them. So, a dialogue, a constant dialogue with those who are responsible for the tradition of Christianity is something very important. It belongs to our practice. You got to be brave. You got to face the true problems. It's not by bringing jazz into the church that we can revive the tradition. We have to do something deeper, more radical. We have to let go of the old way that has become an obstacle. We have to revise, to look again, to make the true spirit be reborn, and that is the only way to offer, to provide people with a new means for transportation. We need a vehicle. We need a big vehicle, a Mahayana, in order to transport the generations, the young generation, to the other shore. And if Buddhism and if Christianity do not practice, do not have enough courage to change, and then that vehicle will not be available. Many generations have practiced not the teaching of Jesus, but the myth concerning the death of Jesus. Very often, they say that if you don't believe that Jesus is reborn a number of days after his death, and then you cannot be a true Christian. Very often they say that if you don't believe that if the mother of Jesus is a virgin, and then you cannot be a good Catholic. And if the practice is based on this kind of dogmas, and then it is not the practice of true practice of Christianity. The other day I hear something like this: a young person coming to a very big church, very rich, how can I say? It's, there's nothing that is common with the life of Jesus at all. Everything is so luxurious, so rich, so authoritarian, and the person feels alienated. And when he talks with the person responsible, the person says something like this: "Don't be frustrated. Christianity is there." And then he said something like this: "Do you know how a pearl is made? When a grain of sand penetrates into the house of the oyster feels uncomfortable, and therefore, from the body of the oyster, secreted some substance in order to envelope the grain of salt of sand, so that the grain of sand will not disturb or make uncomfortable the oyster." And slowly the pearl is formed in order to keep the grain of sand at the center. So if you look at these things, you think that's not Christianity. This strong Christianity is in there at the center. But because we all feel that Christianity, the teaching of Christ, make us uncomfortable. That is why we have constructed, built, and manufacture many things like that in order to envelope the Christianity in our palace. But if you can break the pearl, and then you can find the grain of sand. That is true. But how to break it? How to break it in order to restore the grain of sand? To me, it is not that the teaching of Jesus is something that we should feel uncomfortable with. It's the way we integrate it. It is like the practice of mindfulness. The practice of mindfulness is a practice that can be very joyful. It can make us very happy. But you can very well see the practice of mindfulness is a hard practice that you try to endure today in order to obtain something in the future, like enlightenment, emancipation. So it is up to those enlightened in the tradition of Christianity to look again and to offer us the kind of Christianity that will answer to our questions, to our sufferings, to our loneliness. And of course, it is not a matter of a doctrine, a theory. It is a matter of practice. Because if you have a true insight, and then you have true compassion, and if you have true compassion, we will feel it. We will be drawn to you and become your friend, your co-practitioner. And it is by going back with compassion, with frankness, that we can help to transform and to rediscover the pearls, the what is precious, the treasure within our tradition. It is not by running away. If we are a cutting, if we waiting the time when our roots will come out again, it is because we want to be replanted, transplanted again in the soil of our own culture. And it is like in the Mahayana Sutras, we should be motivated by the desire, by the noble desire to help all living beings. And then the practice center is only a place where we get rooted again. And after that, we would like to go back. And with the Bodhisattva vow, we will try our best with other people to transform society, to renew tradition. And this is not for ourselves alone, but for a whole generation, and also for our children and grandchildren. We find a way out for many, and not just for ourselves alone. Have anything to say? Sing a few songs. Nicholas, anything to say? What did he say?
We wish you a Merry Christmas. Right. He said we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Later on.
Vâng, có câu hỏi. Dạ vâng, có câu hỏi.
Yeah. Sao? She said, were you talking to me alone? Không phải, thầy nói cho hết cả mấy trăm triệu người.
The real Dharma talk must answer the little every impression that we have.
There's a nice song called "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." Can we do it? You need your strong voice to help. I mean, everybody.
We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. The tidings we bring to you and our friends, the tidings of Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Have some discussion on this theme. Cô Trân Đức góp ý với thầy đi. Have anything to contribute to this topic?
Can I ask a question? When you talk about people finding their roots in their culture, to what extent is it possible to share culture without the essence of the culture being lost? Do you think that's a problem?
I don't really understand. Can you repeat?
Yes, when we talk about finding our roots in our culture. One of the problems often given in our culture is that there's too many cultures, and that people lose their cultural identity because there's too much intercultural mix. Do you think that is a problem? For example, an Indian community in Britain might feel that their cultural identity is being lost because their children are becoming too westernized.
But I think the same thing is true with the British people. The British children, they are losing the culture of not only the Indian community.
But my question is, because say at Plum Village, we've got a very multi-cultural, multi-international feel. Is it possible to have that multi-international, multicultural base without losing our cultural roots?
I think to my experience, if you don't have roots in your own culture, you cannot absorb the good things from the other culture.
So we absorb the other culture from our own standpoint, from our own.
Yeah, you have to. In fact, it's not exactly that you don't have roots. You have roots, but you don't touch. You cannot touch. The roots are there, and how to let the roots touch. It's very important to realize that if you don't have roots in your culture, it's very difficult to get the best thing from the other culture. You cannot replace your culture with another culture. If you have roots in your culture, if you are in connection with the best thing, some of the best thing in your culture, and then you can absorb the best things in the other culture too. It's like if a Vietnamese little boy does not have any Vietnamese culture at all, when he come here, right, he get the bad things from the Western culture first. You see, if he is born here and live completely in the Western family or society, and then he will not be no different from a French child or a British child. But if he's 10 years old, and if he does not have any culture, Vietnamese culture, because 10 years of culture is a lot, and if you place him here without any guidance, I think he'll get the bad things in the Western culture first. So the chance that he got the good things in the Western culture is very slim. The same thing is true the other way also. So I think the Indian communities, the community in London, if they want their children to not to get the bad things, they should give their children the best things in the Indian culture, and then they should not be afraid that their children absorb the good things in the British culture, because these good things will only increase the value of their Indian culture. Yeah. If they don't transmit anything good from their own culture, and then their children will get the bad things in the Western culture. And the good thing and the bad things in culture, that is the problem for everyone, and not only for the Indian community. Because there are many people who are born in the West, but who live like a stranger. They don't get the good culture, because there are so many things preventing them from being in touch with that. their parents are not capable of initiating them to the root elements of their own culture. Maybe their parents are not capable themselves of touching the best of their own culture. So I think a Christian that has some true Christian roots will profit a lot when they come and practice with the Buddhists. But if they are completely without roots, it takes a long time. Maybe it's not successful. Anything to say?
Just cultures are alive. I mean, it's not, it's easy to objectify them, but they're alive and changing, and partly what we're seeing here is creation of new cultures. It's a live process.
To me, culture is what you live every day. The way, what you eat, the way you eat, the way you drink, the way you talk, or the way you wear, the dress you wear, everything is culture. But you do it mindfully, so the culture becomes something very important, very deep. It has a meaning. And if you don't do it deeply, you are just imitating, doing the things that should be done, and it's no culture at all, no civilization. It's like celebrating Christmas without any belief, you don't see anything beautiful in it. So if the child does not believe in Santa Claus anymore, and if you still practice Santa Claus and things like that, I think it's very harmful. You have to bring a new meaning to Santa Claus so that your child can believe. It's like in the Mahayana Sutra, it is said that one moment the Buddha used his toe in order to touch the earth, and suddenly a kind of miracle is produced, and everyone can see very deep in the cosmos. So there must have been some Buddhists who believe it as an actual miracle, something just produced in the world, and you remain yourself the same, but yet what is changed is not you in the world. But as I try to explain to you the other day, it is you, oh friend. The act of the Buddha is to produce awareness, deep looking in you, and suddenly you see and you discover things that you have not seen before. So that kind can be described as a shift in the way of looking that can make the people understand and see the value of something in the culture that has been lost to him. So maybe we don't need to ban Santa Claus. We have to make Santa Claus alive and more real. And if you still practice it but not know how to talk to your children, it's meaningless. You have lost your culture. Because as you said, culture is something alive, and it should be keep growing and changing. Kusina?
I've often noticed that when two cultures come together, and the other culture helps to find beautiful things in their own culture. Then I came showing this thing.
what came to my mind is often when we have been practicing with Asian people, we heard a lot how bad was our Western society. And it's very good to hear that in that Western society and culture, there's a lot of good stuff too. And it's very necessary that we are in touch with that too, because often we are putting ourselves down. And so tonight it was good.
Time to speak.
Enough to say Merry Christmas, I guess. Not enough to say Merry Christmas. Well, I don't know. I don't feel very rooted in my culture.
And you practice. That is why you practice together. There are many reasons why we feel like it comes from many directions. So our practice is to see why we feel that kind of lack of connection.
Yeah, what came to my mind is in the fact that many of us are uprooted, and so I thought, being uprooted, when we turn to Buddhism, we often look for partial Buddhism. We just choose what seems kind of hopeful and useful, and many of us think, just sitting and meditation in the Zendo is the only thing Buddhism can offer. So a lot of people, including myself, the last 20 years, I just thought, the more hours I can sit in meditation, the more closer I come to the truth. And I think it's because we don't know what we are lacking. We have lost the root, but if you would have told me you lost your root in a way of a family too, I wouldn't have understood before. And I see the same problem back home, when I try to kind of tell what I found here, I also see some kind of skepticism and is he turning towards a new sect, or kind of, what is he going to do? And I think I have to be a real example of freedom and say, I'm still free. I'm not kind of closing myself into a new kind of a strange sect down in southern France. And I think many of us are afraid, in fact, And just sitting in a Zendo does not mean we have to be in a family. We are isolated islands, as you said, And so my thought came, we have to think about skillful means in order that the Western people are not afraid and they can chew the fruit, the very beautiful fruit. So that's where I am.
It occurs to me that perhaps sometimes it's, with reference to Christianity, maybe perhaps it's not so much that people individually, willfully left it. But in light of what you say about diet and awareness of environment, I think there are factors which are beyond individuals' control, such as modern societies and the forces of materialism that make it hard to realize Christianity. I'm not sure if I'm being clear, but it's just a thought that there's economic and political forces on individuals that seem to affect their lives so strongly that that makes it hard to reach Christianity, that's penetrating into the whole society.
But the suffering is there. Suffering brings us close to spiritual life. And the economic and political situation created a lot of suffering also. And if we have a chance in order to look back at our suffering, so we can make spirituality grow. But I think we need guidance, because in the case we suffer so much and then we tend to kill ourselves. Things like that is easy, a very common practice. So one characteristic of our civilization is that we don't have time. We don't have time. And we want to do things very quickly, ending our suffering. The quickest is to kill ourselves. Buddhism organized a Buddhist community of practice in Vietnam. It's just a very natural thing. It's not a sect. It is of tradition and culture. See, it's so you see that it's like every other things in society, like going to the market and buy some food, and you go into the practice center to practice. Is exactly the same. But here it's different, because Buddhism is an exotic thing, and you might think of it as a sect, something like that. But in our country, it's very. But that is why I said that I am speaking in general terms. We don't have to do it in a Buddhist form. We don't have to organize a Buddhist practice center in order to help people have roots again. We might use some of the Buddhist ways. We can, but we don't need to label as a Buddhist anything that is good, that is effective, that you can make use of in your own culture, in your own tradition, in the culture and tradition of other people. It's like eating fruit. If you like orange, you eat orange, but nobody prevents you from eating bananas. So you enjoy every kind of fruit. In fact, all these kind of fruits are offered by the earth. So any kind of culture is offered by life on earth. So we should feel free to profit and to profit from everything beautiful, good, refreshing in every culture. But what I try to stress in my talk is how we do it. We do it as a Buddhist community, we do it as a Christian community, or we do it just as a community of people. But how we do it, how we organize a community that offers chance for the people who have not been in a family, in a true family where there is loving care from the part of a brother and sister and aunt and nephew. Because in Vietnam now, many families are still big families, and not the nuclear family where it's only father, mother, and one or two children. So you still have uncle and aunt, and when your mother has some problem, you can always run to an aunt. So you don't feel lost. And to organize a community where children can see many aunts, many uncles is very good. So the message is sent to everyone that what kind of community we can set up in order to provide to another chance for the people who have had a broken family and who feel alienated from their culture. So organize a village, a community where people can live a simple life, can work and can earn their living in a simple way, organizing small units of communities where people can have a feeling of a family, and they can grow. They can make the feeling of brotherhood and sisterhood to grow in them. I think that is very important to help these people to re-enter society in order to change society. I don't see any other way. So talk to the Catholics, talk to the Protestants, talk to the humanists, those who don't practice a religion but who share the same kind of concern. I think it's part of our practice. Ai đã mừng chưa? Quay nữa. What shall we do the next? Bây giờ phải có rước đèn cày có đi, có hát không?
Cái nướng của mình nữa đâu? Đã kiếm phố rồi còn cái chiếc ra. Nướng của mình. Không. Cái bánh thánh nó lúc cứng ngắc mà ăn bây giờ để nó đầy một tí đúng không?
Cái này nó dễ lắm. Dạ.